So, good evening, guys. Welcome back to the episode of the TG podcast. Of course, we're here every single Monday talking everything Arsenal. And yeah, we got only just us three tonight. We got Dom in the building. We got Rory with us as well. How you guys doing? You keeping well? You all good?
Yeah, all good, mate. Three's the magic number, right?
yeah.
How the song goes.
Yeah. Rory, you good as well?
Yeah, it's been a busy weekend, I can't lie. But yeah, I'm good.
What are we saying about Arsenal, man? I mean, mate, we all got, rightly so, we got buzzing about the 7-1, battering PSV midweek, and then we go and drop more points in the Premier League against Man United. So we're going to talk all about that, guys. We're going to talk about a bit about, of course, our new director as well, because we spoke about him last week, rumoured, but he looks like he's going to be confirmed now. Should be signing in a few days with Arsenal. Possible signings, we'll talk about that. And then we do have a game on Wednesday. I know it's a bit of a dead rubber now because we're 7-1 up. But we're going to talk about that just more in terms of the team, I think, in that game, because I think we want to see some rotation for sure. I mean, he has to, right, in that game because, mate, 7-1 up, you know. I know keep it professional because it's Champions League, but at the same time, come on, like we need to see some new players in there, I think. So we'll talk all about that, guys. Make sure you get like buttons up and get your thoughts down below as well. If you've got any questions that you want to put to any of us, make sure you leave them down below as well. No, there is no Seb, guys, unfortunately, tonight. He can't make tonight, so it's just us three. But we're here. We're going to run it as always, guys. But yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's start with the Man United game, obviously on Sunday. 10th draw of the season, man. You know, I look at it, obviously, more drop points. Disappointing, if I had to just pick a word to describe it, man, because, yes, we started off the game well. I thought we played some good football in that first half, looking like the better side. But it's, you know, it's a way how you beat Arsenal this season and sit back, play the low block, and we really struggled to break them down. That's exactly what Man United did, and you know they got their reward for that. They got the goal as well. Fantastic free kick from Fernandez, and I know Raya's positioning was really poor, but let's not blame him for that because if it wasn't for Raya, guys, it could have been worse. We could have lost that game. Some of the saves he's made was superb, but I'll start with you first, Dom, mate. Obviously, more drop points, 10th draw this season. What do you make overall about that game, and you know, what's your feelings after that as well in terms of that result for this season?
I think it's sort of like the old cartoon, isn't it? Pinky in the Brain. What are we going to do tomorrow night, Pinky? Same as we do every night. Try and take over the world, or you know. Yeah, I don't think. I think the surprise for me about the game was how Manchester United set up. Actually, you know, I said before the game that you know, obviously the win against PSV was huge. Like, how can you not be excited by that? But equally, it shows what happens when a team tries to come out at you, right? And I thought that actually we might continue that because I thought Manchester United at home wouldn't sit in that low block. You know, Amarin has consistently said we're going to play the way I want to play, and that's not low block football. I think the squad they've got at the moment is suited to low block counter attack football, and they did it very, very well. So I thought Arsenal would win because I didn't expect United to play the low block. But in fairness to them, they did it very, very well. And that's why, you know, I make that sort of pinky in the brain reference, which is Arsenal have struggled all season against that. And I think that's my big criticism of Arteta this season. And I've been quite consistent on this is we don't move the ball quickly enough to unlock that low block. And that was on evidence against here. Now, I know that when you've got still your front three out, that's going to be even harder to do. And then it's even harder as well when both your wingers are off form. You know, Trossard has been very hit and miss this season. Wanyeri, that's probably, I can think of a couple of games this season, that's it, where he's been poor, and this was one of them. But you'd expect that from such a young kid, right? I mean, he's 17 years of age. You're going to get that. So it was definitely disappointing. I thought we'd win the game just because I didn't expect United to play how they were. And Arsenal did. It was a very Arsenal performance, wasn't it? With control in the first half, didn't really create a lot. I mean, the sort of half chances for Trossard and Moreno, where perhaps a more confident or you know, a different player there gets more of a chance than they did. Ultimately, I think draw was probably the right result. Arsenal obviously reliant on Raya in the end to make a couple of big saves. I'm glad someone knew, by the way, looking at the chat, what pink in the brain was. But but
I mean, they said it was before our time, Dom.
probably, but at least someone knew what it was. But you know, the sort of the 3 saves that Raya makes make it look like United were more dominant than they probably were. I thought overall, though, the draw was a fair result, and Arsenal do need to find a way to break down this low block. They managed it at times last year, but there's definitely been a regression this year. I think Arsenal can sort it out. I think it's fixable, but I don't think it's going to be fixable without the return of Saka and or Martinelli to sort of somewhere near full fitness. And ultimately, I've said right up to the international break, that's the kind of football we're going to watch. It's very depressing to watch. It's not fun to watch, but it kind of is what it is to some extent. You know, there aren't the options there, and that's on Arsenal for not doing something in January to give the manager much options to fix it. I do, however, think, do you know what? At times in games, you've got to switch it up a little bit more, and you've got to try something different. It's one of the big criticisms I have of Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. I mean, I don't care what they do. It's great that he's not doing it, but it's one of the big criticisms I have of him, and I think it's something Arteta needs to do a little bit more of. So, as you say, very disappointing, no question about it. You know, and it's a big thing that Arsenal learned this season for me on the field is move that ball quicker, move the defenders about, because that's how you unlock that low block. But Arsenal got what they deserved, which was no more than a point.
Yeah.
And and as you say, arguably lucky to get it because of the chances United created, but I don't think that kind of tells the whole story.
Yeah, man. As always, very well said, man. Very, very well balanced as well, as always, Dom. But Rory, bro, obviously, I know we did the fan cam after the game, but I'll ask you this then. Like, looking into this season now, we're 15 points behind Liverpool. Forest, I think, is it 4 behind us or 5? Might be 4 now.
4. I think.
Yeah, 4. Do you think we're more in? Because you said this to me yesterday. We're closer to 8th than we are top. Do you think we're in a top 4 race this season?
Bro, we've been in a top 4 race for ages. Like, why are we only just realising this? We've been in a top 4 race, I'd say, since January onwards. That was the time where I thought, you know what? I feel like we're going to be in a top 4 race, especially after that January transfer window. And yeah, the game at the weekend against Man United was yet another dismal display against a low block. I mean, as if that wasn't a blueprint already, if you're playing Arsenal. It's just, obviously, Champions League clubs have not clocked it yet, have they? That, when you come and play Arsenal, well, Arteta's Arsenal, should I say, you play a low block, you may not win, but you're not going to lose. That's for sure. And Man United, with bloody Lindelof, our own academy graduate, playing for them, Onana in goal, Casemiro and Eriksen, 2 uncles in midfield, Xerxes up top. They were depleted with injuries, and we love to talk about injuries. Yeah, Man United were missing more players than us. Whereas, yes, I know, I'm not going to deny the fact we have had injuries this season, but injuries are just not an excuse, especially when we had the summer window to address that situation, which was a dismal window, in my opinion. And then, to make it worse than that, you had another opportunity to actually somewhat redeem yourself in January, and we don't do anything. And we're slowly paying the price for it. I mean, how can you go into a title run-in? How can you go into a Champions League run-in even with Mourinho as your false 9? We started the game with Mourinho as your false 9. We ended the game with him in midfield. I couldn't tell where he was playing. Could you guys figure out where he was playing yesterday? I mean, since he started in the Premier League, has he scored a goal? since he started the Premier League?
I think he's got one, hasn't he, since he started? I may be misremembering. Or was that in the Champions League?
No,
it's
like the
Champions
Premier
League.
League.
Yeah, it's Champions League, wasn't it? Yeah.
Champions League.
Yeah.
And we're relying on this guy to. It's just. It just sums up our recruitment in the last 18 months. It's been nothing short of just shocking, right? You bring on your fifth choice left back that's leaving in the summer for free instead of your only attacking signing you've made in the last 18 months. And you know what? I would have preferred Sterling to come on. Obviously, he knows Man United well with his days at Man City, so he knows what this rivalry means. Why not bring him on and see if he changes the game? But no, it's the same like-for-like changes every week. Lewis Skelly has not played midfield for Arsenal yet. We're chasing the league title. Here you go. Here's your chance in midfield. We did the same with Zinchenko when it's been evident that he's a midfielder the whole time. But now he's leaving in the summer. You know what? We're going to throw him in midfield. What's going on? Who else do we bring on? Martinelli, when he's like 60, 70% fit. He had a couple of good touches here and there. Thank fuck. That was offside, by the way. Because you know what? I was saying to my mates, right, when I was watching the game, this is either going to end 1-1 and someone's going to miss a huge chance at the end or someone's going to nick it. And lo and behold, both teams missed big chances towards the end to win the game. I know Martinelli's opportunity was offside, but what do you say, Dom?
I was going to say that was very Michael Owen of you. We're either going to end as a win for either side or a draw.
Yeah, but at the same time, I just knew that someone was going to miss a massive opportunity at the end. Both teams managed to do exactly that.
No, I knew what you meant. By the way, I was only messing.
Yeah. Look, apart from Raya, Declan Rice, Gabriel, and I say Timber to an extent, not really many impressed me. Like even Waneri was pretty poor yesterday. I can't lie, but he was bound to have a game like this, wasn't he? He was going to have a poor game
100%.
Because you can't rely on a 17-year-old to, you know, get you out the rut that you've put yourselves in. Like he's even looking at his teammates going, like, come on, lads. I'm the one that's supposed to be looking up to you forward players. But no, I'm going to have to... Jesus Christ, it's honestly embarrassing. And we had to sub him off as well. We didn't have to, but why did we sub him off when he was the only one that's eager to shoot? Odegaard's looking like Joffrey from Game of Thrones. He's just honestly frustrating at the moment. I mean, I don't know what it is, but so many times that he can release the ball and he just takes extra touches. I mean, that moment where he decided to run at the corner flag instead of driving into that space. And I'm like, come on. He's so much better than that. And I know he is better than what we are currently seeing at the moment from Odegaard. But I did mention on your fan cam, like, is his spot safe for next season? Because in my opinion, I don't think it is. Like, I would not lose sleep overnight if he was going to get dropped next season. But the thing is, right, we can't sub him off because we have no one in that position. And that obviously comes down to squad recruitment. Like, Josh Kroenke came for an emergency meeting from the US, didn't he?
Yeah.
May I ask what that was for?
It was to hire Andrea Berta, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he came to attend, I can't remember the game itself, but he came from the US.
PSV.
On like an emergency meeting. Now, surely in that situation, you do something about it, no? Just,
What right now would he do about it in March, given there's no transfer activity? I mean, his options are fire the manager or not, right? I mean, they're the two options of what he can do in March to fix it, right? Because Arsenal can't go out into the market right now.
no, I'm talking in January.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant in the last week. Apologies, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah,
I thought
in
you, because it's
January.
only just been. I
It came
thought
to an
that's what you were going to.
emergency
Sorry.
meeting.
Yeah, that was wasn't it? Arteta went out to LA, didn't he? I thought, but that was, I think, about the January recruitment, wasn't it? But you could be right. He came to London too, but
Yeah, he did. I think he attended one of the games. I can't remember the top of my head. But I'm like, well, why did you come all the way from the US to London, the N5, to come and attend an Arsenal game to do nothing in the January transfer window? Like, if I open my fridge, see nothing's in it, you best believe I'm getting down to that fucking grocery store so I don't die of flipping hunger. So you do something about it. Like, imagine calling a bloody ambulance for an emergency. Oh, mate, that looks bad. You know what we're going to do? We're going to turn back and go home. We're not going to bother. What? Surely, if it's an emergency, you do something about it. And I don't know how much, clearer we've got to make, but, we've been lacking severely in attacking options, not just this season, but for ages. Like, even the summer before, we didn't sign any attacking players apart from Havertz, who was predominantly a midfielder at the time. Right? Arteta has failed bringing in that hybrid 8 for 2 seasons in a row. He bought Havertz to play in that position, and he's moved him to 9. He's done the same with Marino, who's a holding midfielder, and we bought him based on, the fact he scored a brilliant header against Germany in the quarterfinals. Bear in mind, he was obviously on the bench. He just came on as a super sub. Failed 8. What's he doing now? He's your 9. It's laughable. We've had 2 opportunities to replace Granit Xhaka, and we just haven't. We still haven't replaced fucking Aubameyang yet, and he left in 2022. I mean, all I'm hearing from this fan base is, it's only the striker we need. Bro, we need like 6 or 7 positions still. We still need a rebuild despite being 5 years in. It'll be 6 by the time, well, I hope we win a Premier League title or win any sort of major silverware.
Yeah.
And all these excuses about injuries and look, I'm not buying into it, right? I keep hearing excuses about the fact, Liverpool have come up against teams who have missed players due to injury. Give it a rest, lads, because what you're doing there is proving a point on why teams are missing players as well. You've pretty much proved it. You can't say Liverpool getting lucky playing against teams who are missing players, but then saying, no. We are the only team getting injuries. You can't do that.
Can I just come back in a couple of days?
To pay Paul, can you? It's go on.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I think there's some fair points in there. I think I'd nuance some of those a bit. So I think when you talk about the injuries, right? I think a lot of teams have had injuries this season, and I think that's why a lot of teams are underperforming. I think not Jurgen Klopp. Arne Slot's done a really good job at Liverpool. To be clear, he inherited a good side, and I think he's made them. He's done a really good job with a really good side, right? No question about it. And I think they are going to be deserved champions. I think they have, however, been fortunate in terms of the fact that they have not really had any major players out. Whereas I think their main rivals in Arsenal City have had significant injuries. And I think when you look at 30 odd years of Premier League history, it tells you need to get some luck with injuries too, right? So I think injuries are a part of it. I do, however, think there's some sympathy with more the January window than the summer one, right? So I think the summer window, I've looked at the finances quite closely, and I won't bore everyone with the details because I know everyone's not quite the geek I am. I can't cope with Josh at the bottom of the screen. He's hosting. He shouldn't be at the bottom.
No, let me shop around. It's my OCD as well, man. OCD. Hold on,
Message in
hold
my
on.
mind. But so I think Arsenal's capacity in the win financially has been more limited this season. I think they're easers, right? And the choice they had to do some of the things they do. So I understood the summer more, right? Which was we needed a keeper, we needed a left back, we needed a central midfielder, and we needed a forward. We couldn't get the players we wanted, and I think that was somewhat understandable in the summer, right? Because we couldn't get the central midfielder we wanted with Zubimendi, so we went with a backup, which I think Moreno will ultimately replace not Martin, Partey and Jorginho, one of those, right? We've done that. It's not what we wanted, right? And in the forward line, they couldn't get the forward they wanted and didn't do anything. And I think when you look at where we were in the summer, you can kind of understand that. You had Wanyeri, who you hoped would be your Vieira replacement. He's played far more minutes than we thought was likely. We didn't expect Miles Lewis-Skelly to come through. And then you had Jesus, Martinelli, Trossard, Havertz, Odegaard. And then you brought Sterling in to be your sort of backup. Now, Sterling hasn't worked anywhere near the level even Arsenal would have thought. Arsenal are probably thinking 5 assists, something like that. He's not going to get near that, coming off 15 goals the season before. So you kind of understood the thinking there, given finances were somewhat tight, the market wasn't great. And Arsenal have had a very successful transfer policy by and large for the last 3 years, and they followed that model. So I get that. I understand that logic, and that, I think when you look at the context of the whole window, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's less good than I thought it would be at the time because Calafiori and Moreno have had some issues. I think they will be fine going forward, but they've not been where I thought they would be this year. But that's true of the whole side, right? But I think January is where you have to rip up that model, right? I've always said that they had about £50 million to spend. That's been backed up by likes of Ornstein and other reporters. And I think there were players in January that weren't necessarily available in the summer of the right quality. Now, Arsenal might say they weren't the players we wanted. That's fine in the summer because you look like you had the options. By the time we got to January, that's where you kind of have to break your own rules to some extent. You can't break the financial rules, but you can break your own rules, which is this isn't the player we want, but things are desperate. At that point, you had no Saka, no Martinelli, no Jesus. And you were probably already a forward light because we all said that coming out the summer that we were a forward light and we took a gamble and needed fitness. And you had Raheem Sterling at that point, is not going to be your 5-goal, 5-assist player you hoped it would be. At that point, you're now 5 forwards essentially down, 4 definitely down, and 1 that's not anywhere near before me. That's where you have to go out and say, do you know what? We've got £50 million. I'm just going to take Brian Mbeumo as an example, right? Let's say Arsenal don't think Brian Mbeumo is good enough for them. And let's just, for argument's sake, say £50 million gets it done from Brentford, which I think it probably would have. He's probably a £30 million player, given he's got 18 months left on his contract. Brentford are safe. They're probably going to take the money. At that point, you go, do you know what? We're breaking our own rule here and we're bringing him in. And it doesn't have to be that. I've just used that as an example. That's where I have the problem with Arsenal here. Do I think one player fixes the issue this year? No, I don't, because I think when you've got such a concentrated level of injuries, one player doesn't make that number. But I do think injuries are a legitimate part of it. And I think if you gave Liverpool the same injuries that Arsenal and City have had, they are not where they are right now. They can cope with injuries up front because that's their strength, just like we can cope with injuries at the back. Like we had significant injuries at the back early in the season and our defence wasn't quite the level it is, but it still coped fairly well. Our forward area is a weak point. And this is where you are right, Rory, is that Arsenal definitely have neglected the attack to some extent. Well, not to some extent. They have neglected attack. Now, you can build your squad in different ways, right? Liverpool built theirs from the front back. We built ours from the back forwards, right? There's different ways to do it. But they've definitely neglected also coming out of the summer. But it's January, as I say, where I have the real issue here. And that's where I just slightly disagree with you, but kind of agree with your underlying point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the thing as well we are forgetting is if it wasn't for injuries, we wouldn't be seeing the sight of Wanyeri and Lewis-Skelly starting Premier League matches. I'm gonna say that right now. Like, I think we are forgetting.
Sorry, Roy, I missed that. Could you just repeat it? Sorry, apologies.
I reckon if it wasn't for the injuries, I don't think Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly would be getting minutes in the Premier League. They might be coming on as subs, but they wouldn't be starting games if it wasn't for injuries.
That's a silver lining of the season. You're spot on.
Yeah, so this is why I don't use injuries as an excuse when we had 2 opportunities to do so. Right? Forget Sterling on loan, forget Neto, forget Marino, forget the left back with gorgeous hair. I wanted a fucking striker with that money. Right? We spent 40 million, 40 to 60 million on Marino and Calafiori combined when we could have got Gyökeres or Ivan Toney for 40 million.
Well, I think with Ivan Toney, you weren't getting him because I think he wanted to do by money and it's life changing, right? You're not getting Gyökeres for 40, but you can get him for 60. But I think if you do get the striker, right, when you look back in the summer, we still needed a central midfielder and we still need a left back because no one could foresee Miles Lewis-Skelly being what he was, particularly as he's a central midfielder, right? That's what he came up through the system as. No one saw Miles Lewis-Skelly coming, probably not even Arsenal. To some extent, they probably saw Nwaneri coming because they believed in him for a while. Not necessarily to the number of minutes. That's been sort of the situation there. But Arsenal did get in the 4 positions we all said in the summer, which had to be a backup goalkeeper. They couldn't get the player they wanted. They got someone in just to get through, right? That's fine. They got a left back in that we all felt they needed, Calafiori. No one saw Miles Lewis-Skelly coming. They didn't get the centre midfield they wanted, but they did forward planning on that, and then they will get the central midfielder this summer that they probably wanted last year. They then got the winger in, which was a depth piece winger. Where they were missing was a striker. I think we can all agree with that. But as I say, I do understand the logic, and I said it all summer, which was if we were going to go and spend big money on a forward that summer, I felt that actually getting a wide forward was probably more sensible given the state of the market at that time. But it's without debate that we need a number 9 this summer. I think Havertz would have got 20 goals this season, but he's upgradable, right? On that, I think everyone would agree.
Yeah. Can I just ask you a question quickly, Dom, right? Regarding Calafiori. Well, I asked Josh the same question on the fan cam. Bless you.
Sorry, thank you. I actually heard you, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. I looked really weird then going,
But yeah, I was just going to ask you a question regarding Calafiori, right? Does he remind you of like the development in Gvardiol at Man City? Was a centre-back, currently makeshifting as a left-back, weak defensively, but going forwards, he's unreal. Does he give you flashbacks? Not flashbacks, but, you know, it kind of gives you shades of Gvardiol a little bit.
I think that's a really good comparison. I hadn't actually thought about it, but yes, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think Calafiori is going to prove to be a really good signing. I know Josh is a big fan, and I think if we sold Kivior in the summer, I think there's a debate. And Zinchenko in the summer, I think you need to bring in another defender, but there is a question mark whether you make that centre back or a left back, right? Because Calafiori is a centre back by trade. I quite like him in the left back role, and I think with a full pre-season and not being injury hit, same with Moreno. I think we will see the best of them after that. I'd be interested to see what had happened had they not got those injuries. I remember Theo Walcott talking about the importance of pre-season, and you then combine that with the likes of Declan Rice and Ben White, and I'm missing someone, another defensive player. We're talking about how hard it was for them to learn the defensive system at Arsenal. I wonder how much that might impact him. I think obviously the weakness in Calafiori, as you rightly point out, is his defensively. Yeah. That's where he's got to put the most work.
That worries me, I can't lie.
It would worry me more if we get to this point next year. I think that will be significantly better. Josh, not Josh. Yes, Josh, I am talking right. Josh will know this better than I am, and he can correct me if this point isn't right. But the Italian game is much more defensive by nature, and I think it protects their defenders a little bit more. So I think that makes a jump defensively quite big, but it sort of allows him to see that attacking bit go forward because it's that little bit freer in the Premier League to some extent, mostly. Yeah. So we're sort of seeing those talents come through. So I think that learning has been quite sharp, but I can see the improvement between him now and September. But then there's also the fact that Arsenal's defensive system, the weakness is that left back area because it provides a lot of strengths going forward because we push that left back high. we push them into midfield and we try and force the opposition back, ironically, which we don't need to do at the moment because everyone's doing low block against us. But it's forcing those extra players forward. And actually, I think we almost need to be more aggressive in that. We saw it against PSV, how pushing our left back further forward got us more men forward and made our attack look better. But the downside of that is it exposes the left back, meaning more likely they're going to make a mistake. And we've seen Calafiori and Miles Lewis-Skelly get booked in the last few games because they've been that little bit higher, and it does increase the likelihood of defensive mistakes. So I'm not concerned about that, but Josh is definitely better placed than I am to talk about the difference between Serie A and the Premier League.
I don't really want to what's the term? Sort of single out Calafiori like I hate him. I am obviously going to give him time. But all I'm getting is, oh no, if because he's got aura, you should rate him. At the moment, and I could be wrong, and I hope I am proved wrong, I think it has been a pretty poor signing so far, but I could be wrong in like the long run. But if we do focus on the positives, I'd say he did bring up the his attacking output, didn't you, Dom? And the fact, I think we are a better team when it comes to attacking wise when Calafiori's in the team than we are when he's not there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think we're slightly better defensively when Miles Lewis-Skelly is in, ironically.
Yeah. But I think Martinelli's a better player when Calafiori's behind him.
Yeah, I also think he's a better player when Moreno's at left 8, funny enough. I think that balance works better for him. But, I mean, I'd be interested in Josh's view on Calafiori, because obviously he will have seen a lot of Italian football and a big fan of him behind. But as I say, I think both him and Moreno have been more disappointing than I expected this season, which is why I downgraded after 6 months my summer transfer window when you look at the entire context of the summer window, because they've been poorer. But I'm not concerned about them. Moreno will be a decent squad player, which is what I always thought he'd end up being, and I think Calafiori will get better and better. And therefore I'm not worried. But I'd be really interested in your view, Josh, on Calafiori, because you'll have seen a lot of him before he came here.
Yeah, no, do you know what it is with this Calafiori player? I feel like we said this earlier about Dom, you said it perfectly with the left back. Like, we know that.
Well, I usually do. No, I'm joking. Carry on.
Bigging himself up, yeah. I think I Dom every single time. But you made a good point with the left back situation. Like, it's such a tough position to like master, ain't it? If we're being honest at Arsenal, because we're seeing so many. It's like a big role, because as you rightly said, Arteta wants them inverting. Now we're pushing them more higher up, which Calafiori can do really well. I think going forward, we've seen this guy. He's been getting a few goals this season. He offers a lot going forward, but then it just leaves a gap in behind, and I think teams target that as well, bro. Not just when Calafiori's there. I feel like when when Zinni was there, we know he wasn't strong defensively. That's not his strong point. Again, he's more going forward. Tini can't really do all the inverted stuff, can he? So that's why.
But he could attack in a different way. He was still
But like, I kind of wonder, guys, right? Like, why don't we invert the right back? Because in that run-in, when we came back from Dubai last season, we played Ben White as the inverted right back, and we used Kivior as like a traditional left back, so he could slot into a back three alongside Saliba and Gabriel. I know Ben White's been injured, but why can't we invert the right back instead of the left back? Why does it always have to be the left back?
I think there's a genuine choice for Arsenal this summer, right? If let's say we sell Kivior and Zinchenko, you definitely have to bring in a defender if you do both. You could arguably do if you do one. I think there's a choice, right? So for Arsenal, I think if Ben White plays, you definitely want to invert your left back, right? Because Ben White, well, he can invert. I love that overlap that he does with Saka. I
think he was better, as an inverted right back.
Ben White?
Yeah, like in that run-in last season, do you know how good he was?
He was good, but him overlapping offers a lot.
Yeah, like he can still overlap, but I think obviously he played as a defensive midfielder for Leeds, and I think I'd say the best we've seen of Ben White. Like I've got a few Leeds fans.
I think Arsenal just play room. I think he did it well, but I think he's better overlapping. But I think also Arsenal are playing fantastic well at that point, which helps, right?
Yeah.
Right now we're not playing brilliantly, and I think the gloom right now is understandable, but slightly worse than the underlying position really is, if I'm honest. But I like Ben White overlapping. But if you play Yurian Timber at right back, then I think the choice here for the summer, right? If you sell both, is do you buy a traditional left back and go, do you know what? When you're in Timber plays, Kieran Tierney plays. I'm just using Tierney as an example of that traditional left back. I can't think of who I'd get off the top of my head. Or do you go, actually, Ben White's playing, we're going to play Miles Lewis-Skelly and Calafiori sort of your backup centre half, if that makes sense.
Half,
And I think there's a genuine choice there. And I think that might be market opportunity related. You know, Kirkes or whatever his name is. I can never pronounce it.
The Bournemouth player.
I think he will go to Liverpool. And if I was him, I would go to Liverpool because I think he's a natural fit there. He starts over Robson. He's a natural fit there. So I think, you know, he's not going to say no to Arsenal, but I think given the choice, that's a natural fit for him at Liverpool. It's a bit like
Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah, it's a bit like Marmoush. He's a better fit for City than he is for Arsenal. From my point of view, because they play almost with that second striker that we don't. So he's a better fit. But if Arsenal come in, would he have said no? No, I don't think. I think he'd have come, right? But someone like that, then I think you sort of change both of your right backs to fit. But Timbers you're pairing with, you know, Kirkes in this situation, or MLS is your left back with Ben White. So I think there was an interesting choice there for Arsenal. But I don't think that will happen because I think we're quite wedded to this system. And I also, funny enough, when you've got Gabriel as your left centre half, inverting from the left side makes sense because Gabriel helps cover that space really, really effectively. I'm not saying Saliba can't do it, but Gabriel is so adept at doing it, with Saliba being the shuffling player, that kind of suits the two centre halves as well. Yeah. And I think you have to look at it from the big picture there.
Yeah, most definitely, man. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, obviously, with the summer as well, because I see Zinchenko moving on as well, you know. Both Zinchenko, Tierney, they'll go.
Right.
Skelly will stay, of course, so maybe he'll be used as a main left back.
I just wonder whether, do you sell both, right? So I think if one goes, I think you probably still want to bring in a defender, right? But if both go, you definitely do. But I wonder if Tomiyasu, because obviously we missed Tomiyasu all season, right? He, in theory, should be back next season. We're not going to be able to sell him, right? Coming off this season, you're not selling him. And also, he's a very good player when he's fit. The obvious issue is
he is, but it's like when he's fit.
Exactly, right?
No one knows who that is.
And you just have to hope that this second operation fixes it, because we're not going to be able to sell him. But when he's fit, he's a fantastic player. Very, very good, right? If there is a doubt about his fitness after the operation, is there a world where you say to Kivior or Zinchenko, right, you both want to go, whoever can find a club for the right price first can go. The other one, by the way, you're staying. Because I think if there's a doubt over Tomiyasu's fitness, can you really let both go? Because if you let both go and just bring in one defender, and that's what I think you have to do, because I think Arsenal need to put their resources elsewhere, as we discussed, does one have to stay? I think they probably do, unless you are as sure as you can be on Tomiyasu's recovery.
Yeah, I hear that, because you're right, bro. Like when someone has that injury like that, you know, and he's not back until next year, right? It's a year. It's not a season. It's a year, I swear.
So yeah, he's gonna be injured this year. So
he won't be back till 2026.
Is he not? Yeah. Is he not? I thought
he must be injured until.
I thought that was Jesus that's not going to be back. I thought
no, he'll be back around December because he got injured this January.
For Jesus, yeah, but I thought Tomiyasu, it's going to be slightly less time out. I thought it was more like September for him, but I could be mistaken.
Is it September?
I think he'll come back around Christmas time, Jesus. Tomiyasu won't be back until January next year.
Yeah.
Because he got injured around February time, didn't he?
You can't sell him in January either. So like, we have no other choice, do we really?
Well, in that case, you can only sell one, because you've got to have 8 defenders, 9 with Tomiyasu if he's not. I thought his recovery time was slightly quicker because it was a second op, and therefore it's not still ACA related. But I could be, I could have misremembered. I mean, Jesus is definitely Christmas. But...
Yeah. I mean, like with Zinchenko, right? It honestly won't surprise me if we end up keeping him in the summer, because from what I've seen and where Arteta's playing him, he might not even be that bad.
Well,
as like a squad player next season in midfield. And if that player's planning on playing him, then
say we sell him, it's like say someone like Dortmund, and they'll pay him in the midfield, and he'll go and cook there. You know what I'm trying to say?
But if we were going to play in midfield next season, I would not mind him as a squad player, because we need more players in midfield, especially when we've got Partey and Jorginho out of contract in the summer.
Yeah. I've just
One
checked
of
on
them was-
Tomiyasu, by the way, guys. You're right. He is out for that. So I think it's Zinchenko you keep, and for two reasons. One, you're missing Tomiyasu, so you need an eighth defender. But secondly, and Calafiori can cover for Kivior, right? But I think the other reason behind it would be if Jorginho and Partey go, and I think that likely, Moreno will be the cover for one because we're going to buy in Zubimendi for argument's sake, and I think you need another midfielder. But Zinchenko can also be your fifth midfielder as well as that extra defensive cover. I don't expect him to get many games, and you reduce his value further. But Zinchenko's the one you keep, right?
Yeah. I think so. I think so for sure. I mean, it's only took until what? How many years he's been out here for Arsenal? Zinchenko 3 seasons now.
This is his third season.
3 seasons
He
now.
took 3 seasons and he finally played in his right position recently. Midfield.
Yeah, when like nothing's really at stake. Like he will play midfield tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, Wednesday against PSG.
I hope he does as well, mate. I hope he
probably will.
I think so too. But I also think he's a decent enough left back for the type of role we're asking to play. He played it a long time at City as well. But I agree. I like him in midfield, but he almost plays as a midfielder when he plays left back for us. So I think that's somewhat the point. It's why we see Miles Lewis-Skelly. It's why we see Calafiori. You see those defenders that are really kind of midfielders. I know Calafiori's a defender, but he has those midfield attributes because we almost want to play an extra midfielder. So I get why he plays left back because he plays so much time in midfield anyway. But you're right. I think his natural position for me is midfield.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, let's move to a bit of news about our director. Obviously, I'm sure you guys saw it. It's been confirmed that he'll be joining Arsenal.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for him coming in, really.
Like, I am as well, actually.
Out of all of the directors we was looking at, he was the one I was really looking like, yeah, I hope we get him. Other ones, all the names are being mentioned, really. I just think, he's got experience, been at Atletico since 2013, signed some quality players in there. Got them one of the most egotistical managers in world football in Simeone, as we said last week. But a report came out that he's already looking for targets. And again, this is just rumours if you know what it's out of Arsenal. But Lautaro has been linked with Arsenal, right? From Inter. Striker, as we know. Dropped off massively this season, in my opinion. He's not been at his best. But you can still got that quality about him, 100%. But I'll start with you, Rory, first.
Sorry, before you go to Rory, I have to read out this tweet.
Go on.
From Paddy Power. Evan Ferguson is on for West Ham, hoping to do the best impact sub from Potter since Neville Longbottom in 1998. Sorry, that's what I was giggling about. So sorry.
No, that's class to be
Just
fair,
in
bro.
case anyone saw me laughing. What the hell is he laughing at? That was why.
Paddy Power, bro. Paddy Power, mate. Class.
Sorry.
No, that's class, bro.
I was. That's why I was giggling like a schoolboy.
That's quality, I can't even lie. But Rory, I'll start with you, bro. Firstly, what do you make of Berta being confirmed coming in, and also what do you make of like the Martinez link as well?
Yeah, with Berta coming in, I'm actually quite excited by this. I think we need someone with a bit of nous behind the scenes, if you know what I mean. And someone who is willing to actually, challenge the manager. I mean, he's challenged Simeone over the years. And I think with Arteta, who's had too much power over the club, I think we need someone to sort of lay off that pressure, if that makes sense. I think it's important, though, for the Cronkies to, let Berta do his job and give him the funds, or else it's just pointless. Because obviously he can't, he's not Doctor Strange. He can't magically, get money from the blue and buy players outright like it's fucking career mode. So I think with Berta, the fact he's won major honours at Atletico Madrid and the players he's signed, I am excited by this appointment. It's just I'm a bit concerned on how both Berta and Arteta will get along. And look, in my opinion, it won't surprise me if, they do have a falling out eventually. Obviously, we don't exactly know the whole backstory between Edu and why he left Arsenal, but we were hearing that Arteta had far too much power and he just decided to leave. So hopefully that's not the case with Berta, because we know he's a ruthless guy. And I think with the Martinez situation and the targets he's already looking at, I reckon, as you said, Josh, I think Martinez has fallen off this season. I reckon Thuram has had a better season, but I would definitely take Martinez in a heartbeat. I think out of Gyökeres and Isak, I don't see any of them two happening, whereas Martinez, I think I wouldn't say, again, he's my first choice, but I don't know. It's a weird one, because I think I would take him, but I look at him and go, he is capable of obviously scoring goals, but at the same time, he has a habit of missing chances, and that's the same with any striker. But I have seen him miss some sitters in the past, and don't get me wrong, he still scored brilliant goals as well. And if we were going to bring him in, I just hope Arteta does not play him as an inverted striker. You know what I'm saying? Drop it deep in midfield. Like, we can't have any of that. You bring in a striker, you play him up front.
Yeah.
And I think Martinez does definitely make sense, but again, he's not really my first choice. But I take him nevertheless.
Yeah, I hear it 100%. Dom, what do you think about the news that's gonna happen with Berta coming in, man? Like, does this excite you as well?
Yeah, I think so. So I think I would have been really happy with Berta or Alabe. I think my preference was for Alabe out of the two, but I think the advantage of Berta, and he was a very close second. I mean, you could throw a blanket over the two. I think the advantage of Berta is he can start now, whereas Alabe wouldn't be till the summer. And I think, no surprise to see rumours come out the second we look like appointing a director of football. I don't put much credence to them, to be blunt. Arsenal will have done a lot of the work ahead of the summer already, right? You don't start your work in March. A lot of it will have been done. What he will come in and do is have a look at it and go, add a few of his own names to the list, because he will have been having a look around, right? And have a look and a view, which might change a few things, but not drastically. I think you're probably moving people up and down the list rather than adding lots of new names to the list. I think Rory's absolutely right. I don't know why I'm having problems with your team's name tonight. That I think Edu did a good job, right? And I think Edu did challenge the manager by all accounts. And actually, he left partly because Arteta's power was growing, which is probably right, because he was getting better at his job. And I think you want a decent balance of power between the two. But also, he was offered a better job at Forest, which was he was in charge of the entire group, not just one side. And I think that's something that excited him. And I also think that probably he felt the time was right. And he was offered more money. Arsenal offered him more money to stay too, and he said no, because he was offered A, more at Forest, and B, it was a different job. So fine, no problem. But I think it is important that the director of football is able to constructively challenge the manager and vice versa. I think Berta can clearly stand up for himself. You don't survive at Atletico Madrid with Simeone as the manager for that long. And I think also that there will have been a lot of conversations before the hiring happened between Berta and Arteta before the signing was made to make sure that they got on. And I think Berta is clearly also able to compromise enough to make sure he maintains a relationship. Because again, he will have fallen out a lot with Simeone, but it doesn't seem to have happened publicly. And I think all of that is quite helpful. And I think January is one of the few exceptions where you really heard Arteta call out the club for not doing stuff. Generally speaking, he will toe the corporate line, which suggests if they fall out, it's likely to be in private rather than public. So that doesn't overly worry me. I think Arteta will leave first, because I think he'll either run out of road next year if he doesn't win anything, and I think that's probably the end. I think he'd probably walk before he was fired. But also, I think he will probably get to the point where he's like, I need a break, sort of Jurgen Klopp style, or I've taken the club as far as I can. But I don't think it will come from a falling out with Berta. I'd be surprised if that happens just because of how long he's done for. But I think this is an exciting hire. I think it's the right hire. And I think it shows how far Arsenal have come in the last 4 or 5 years. There is no way 5 years ago Andrea Berta takes the Arsenal job, right? But
No.
he is now. On Rory's second point about money, when you hire a new director of football, you give him money, right? Unless the club is in dire straits. The club isn't in dire straits. I've talked a lot about finances, and if you are really interested, sorry to quickly self-promote here, I've done a quick breakdown of the finances on my channel that you can see, and you can see it on your channel actually, because you made you did an excellent video with my horrible monotoned delivery, but
It was class.
What about me?
I
I actually came up with it first. Thank you very much.
What's that?
What's that?
The Andrea Berta video.
No, I'm talking about the finances.
No, I was talking about his FFP video. He did.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
the finance.
but like I
Fair
say, I
enough.
think the finances this year have been quite tight. Next year, I by my maths, and I like maths, actually, I think there could be around 180 to 200 million net spend. So that's plus whatever you can add on whatever we sell to that to help. That's by my calculations. I wasn't far off in January, so I think he will have money to spend. And I think the two things align, which would suggest that Arsenal will allow him to spend, because you don't bring someone like him in and not allow him to spend if the money is there. And my calculations, the money is there. So I think this will be a very exciting summer. I mean, Rory mentioned earlier it's a rebuild. I don't think it's a rebuild. What I think it is, the number coming in permanently is going to be higher because we had to bring in a couple of loans last year because we couldn't get the deals done. So you're sort of doing those as well. But I don't think it's a full rebuild. I think it's the natural churn plus one player plus the loans, which kind of makes it feel more of a rebuild than it really is. But I think this is an exciting appointment. In terms of Martinez, I'll believe it when I sort of see more concrete links, if I'm honest, and more consistent links. I've not seen a lot of him this year. My concern with him has always been he feels this is going to sound an odd comment. He feels a very Serie A forward, and I wonder what that looks like outside it. And the answer is we don't really know because he's played there for so long. It doesn't mean he can't. Just because he's played there for so long doesn't mean he can't do it. But that's always a concern of mine. I'm not concerned about him having an off season. You know, lots of players have an off season from time to time. It doesn't make them bad players.
Yeah, of course.
That doesn't bother me at all. Do I really believe that Martin Odegaard, back to something Rory mentioned earlier, is a bad player because he's had a bad season? No. And do I think he's a starting 10 next year? Yes, because I think his place comes under pressure from even when if he doesn't perform next year, right? You know, and that's probably a little bit of what he needs. But yeah, so I don't think Martinez will come in. I'm not against it. I mean, I think the centre forward will be Šeško, whatever we think. I think that's who it's going to be. But yeah, but I think on Berto, I think it's a good appointment. I don't know what you think, Josh.
Well, honestly, mate, I think it's what's that, Rory? Oh no, yeah, you probably, mate. I don't know. But you know, honestly, with Berta, no, I agree with what you guys are saying. You know, I think this is a type of director that really excites me. There's a comment here, to be fair, about Felix, and
I was just
let's be honest with it. Let's be honest with it, right? With this Berta guy, and as you guys say, like as Dom said as well, like if he's gonna get given the money because we got a new director, right? He's not afraid to splash the cash. That's obvious. You know, you look at the João Felix one, 130 mil. That was euros. That was so 110 away for conversion pounds. Yeah, was it Lamar as well? They signed for like 90 million or 80 million,
Lamar.
right?
Diego
but the thing is, when you look at in that time, João Felix was wanted by like all the big clubs at the same time. Like Barca wanted him, Madrid wanted him. Yeah, and Atleti got ahead. Like we wanted Thomas Lamar. Let's not forget that as well. But
we're actually paying more money as well.
So he showed that ambition and then ruthless to get over the line. I just feel like with those signings, it was more down to how Atleti play. My opinion.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I look at it like more as a positive. Like he has that know-how on getting big deals over the line. I don't care about whether they've worked out or not, that's to do with the manager implementing a system that suits the players they've bought for big money. So, for me, that doesn't go down to the sporting director. His job is to sign players and show ambition, win the race ahead of a whole boat of clubs to get to big players who can actually get you over the line. And I think with the targets we are linked with this summer, well, not linked, but we've got shortlisted, should I
Yes,
say,
he did.
this summer. We've got obviously Zubamendi, Nico Williams, Alexander Isak. Now, I know Alexander Isak doesn't play in La Liga anymore, but obviously he used to. And at the time, Andrea Berta was the sporting director at Atletico Madrid. All three of them, with Zubamendi and Nico Williams, currently play in La Liga. And those are the three targets Arteta really does want to bring in. So if Berta has the money, has the funds, and Arteta goes to Andrea Berta and goes, bro, these are the three players I want in Zubamendi, Williams, and Isak. Here's the money. Go and splash the money on them three players. And with Martinez as well, him being Italian, and obviously he has, been sporting director at the likes of Genoa and Parma in Serie A. So he's obviously familiar with Martinez as well. I'm not entirely sure whether Martinez was playing in Serie A at the time.
No, he can't have been. But he's been there for over 10 years.
Yeah, but because he is Italian, he's surely been keeping up to date with obviously the Italian Federation.
Well, I think any director of football worth the salt keeps abreast of what's happening across the leagues, right?
Yeah.
I think the thing for me here is that look, João Felix definitely he did, and Partey, by the way.
Partey,
Diego Jota, Oblak,
Griezmann as well. He bought him in.
Twice.
Diego Costa's another one.
Luis Suarez, even
David Villa as well. I think he's had David Villa.
Yeah, the thing is about Berta in the 2013 season, Atletico needed a striker. They bought David Villa that summer and won the league the following season in 2013-14 season. They actually got to a Champions League final and they were seconds away from winning it. In the lockdown season in 2020, they signed Luis Suarez on a free. The following season, they won the league. Meanwhile, Arsenal in 2025, they need a striker. 2026.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, hopefully. I mean, the thing is, so if you take those players, so I think you're absolutely right. Arsenal have started to show they can get big money signings done in the last sort of days of Edu. I've talked a bit about the finance again, but they got Declan Rice over the line. They are capable of doing it. Arsenal are a bigger club now than they were then. I think he obviously is capable of getting it done. You look at his top signings, and I actually think Alvarez will be absolutely fine, but they're not necessarily great successes. And to some extent, that does worry me, but it doesn't. But equally, I get Rory's point, and I agree probably with that more than the worry, which is it shows you can get them done. And I think the thing here was, as Josh just said, everyone wanted Lamar, everyone wanted Felix, everyone wanted Griezmann. Now, Griezmann worked, less so the second time around than the first time. He still got these deals done, right? And I think that's encouraging. I also think that Arsenal, generally speaking, have got their recruitment right with the under-knowing work, and they tend to find players that fit the system more. So I think as long as Berta is buying into what Arsenal are looking to do, then I think then his signings will work much better. So I'm not concerned by those signings at all. And the reality is as well, if you've been a director of football for 10 years, there is no way you don't have a flop at some point, right? It's impossible. This idea that every signing has to be a superstar and every signing works out is for the birds. No one has that record, right? Nobody. So I think overall it seems to me a good fit on paper, and I think it's quite exciting for Arsenal, coupled with the fact that I do expect significant spending this year because I think those financial worries have eased.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Let's move, obviously, guys, to.
By the way, I just beat Atletico Madrid whilst during this podcast, and I've just won the Champions League on Football Manager. So you know,
What with Arsenal?
maybe it's maybe it's an omen.
Love that.
Absolute rubbish, of course, but you know.
How far deep are you in the how many seasons are you down?
Oh, no idea. 1 sec. 2027.
2027. Okay,
Yeah.
not bad.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Who have you signed them up front?
Oh, funny enough, Šeško.
Let's go. Okay, he's
Yeah.
got 10.
I've got and Gyökeres, which
Oh,
shows
he's
you
got them
shows you Football Manager isn't really real, because Gyökeres is quite happy being a bench option, which is not going to happen in real life, right?
Love
You
that.
know, but
Is,
yeah, it's a good
Tilly left back, Dom.
No, I sold him for 50
Oh,
mil.
sold him. Of course, he
Sold
sold
him
him.
for 50 mil. Yeah. I've got Dedic and I've got Jared Hato.
Hato. Yeah, what happened to him, man?
I can see him going to Liverpool. I can't lie.
No, I think they're going to get the
sign him.
Bournemouth left back, but he wouldn't be a bad shout. I think him, or if I'm bringing a defender, I'm either bringing him, Diamonde, or Antonio Silva. The latter two play in Portugal, or as Hato is the other. Yeah, so it's Hato, Silva, or Diamonde is who I'd be looking to bring in if you're bringing in a defender this summer. All of probably around the 40 to 50 million mark, I'd have thought, which is quite expensive, but real big young talent. But there we go. We should probably talk about real football, not a computer game.
Let's move to obviously PSV on Wednesday. As I said earlier, we know it's a bit of a dead rubber game, if you want to call it that. We're setting one up, guys. So focus more on the team, like lineup wise. I'll come to you first, Dom. Would you play?
You always do this on bloody lineup.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. I did it last
No,
time.
don't worry. Carry on.
I'll tell you what. I'll give my lineup first. So this is what I would
go on
do,
then.
right? Neto in goal, because come on, I know I had a bad game against Girona, but even so.
Well, he made that one mistake, which thankfully he got away with. But other than that, he was fine.
Yeah,
he was fine. Other than that, he wasn't.
So
great.
Neto in goal. Back four for me. I'll change it around completely. I'll go Ben White for me, gets the starter right back. I'll go Kivior and Calafiori as a two centre backs. I'll drop Saliba and Gabriel. I'll go, of course, Tierney left back. He's got to play there. Zinchenko in the midfield. Jorginho in the midfield. Wanyeri instead of Odegaard where Odegaard plays. And then I'd go. I mean, Raheem the Dream's got to play because he can't play against Chelsea, can he? On Sunday, it's a loan deal, so he's going to be in there. I'll go Martinelli as a main striker as well, and then I'll go Cabia, the young player on the win, because I think he's a winner, no? Because why not? Because it's we're setting one up in Champions League. Yeah. We've got really nothing to lose, so give this guy a chance. I don't think he will get the chance, but it's the same with that Ballot or the edgy guy. Why not give him a chance? But
exactly. I was going to bring him up. An actual striker, and he's 22, I believe, and he's only made a couple of seconds.
So, I mean, I think you have to give him some minutes just from the point of view of resting players. But I think Arsenal under Arteta have shown that if you're a good enough youngster, you can play. I think this guy's 22, only really starting to make it through the academy now. It's quite late, so I don't think he's Arsenal quality anywhere near, and so I understand why he's not got the minutes, but agree. I think in this game, it's like, well, the game's done, right? This is the total rest and players. I don't think Arteta will do that, but but he's the one. There you go. He plays, right. Just reward him for coming in and trying to make a difference in training and what have you, because you've got nothing to lose. Like, give him a nice night, right?
I mean, what he got a minute against Zagreb, didn't he, off the bench?
Yeah. I don't think he had a touch on the ball.
No, he just
didn't it take about 4 minutes to get him on though, because the ball just wouldn't go out of play and he was
you got to feel for him there, man. You got to feel for him there.
I obviously coach kids, and I had that a couple of weeks ago. Like, I've got a kid ready to come on, and like I said to his dad after, I'm sorry, like that ball didn't go out of play for 3-4 minutes. Like, we try and get you equal playing time, but there's nothing I can do when the ball doesn't go out.
That was his El Neni moment.
I remember that. Kid. He just runs on and then runs around a little bit for like 2 seconds and then blows a whistle. Our job
And
done,
it's
mate.
full time.
Sounds like me when they put me on up front just to go and harry the defenders. Like,
But what will be your lineup then, Rory?
I go Neto in goal, Ben White, Kiwior, Calafiori. I'll then go Tierney left back, midfield. I'd go Jorginho. I mean, you could go with Marino as well in midfield. Drop him back slightly, and not play him up front because I think that number 9 experiment has to end. And then I'll go
what's your
Waneri.
alternative to him at number 9 though? Raheem?
Martinelli.
Martinelli.
Yeah, but is he fit enough to start at the moment?
Well, I mean, this is perfect for him to get minutes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because, like, we're 7-1 up, innit? So, I go Waneri. I think he deserves to play in front of Ødegaard right now. And then front three, I'd go... Oh, who do you go front three-wise? I'll go Sterling on the right. I'll play Martinelli on the left and play Butler or Odeji up front.
Okay. Fair enough. Dom?
I think Trossard right now, he needs...
Oh, yeah.
He needs to hold bench.
Yeah.
Right, bro needs to bid off the Tom Red Barnet and just revert back
Tom
to
Red Barnet.
No disrespect.
I'm clipping that, bro. That's clipped, yeah. What's that? 1 minute 7, 1 minute 8, bro. I'm clipping that. Tom Red Barnet.
No disrespect. But he needs to revert back.
No disrespect.
No disrespect.
Absolutely killed him.
Oh my God. Tom Red Barnet, for fuck's sake. Oh, mate. But,
Poor Tom.
No disrespect. Tom, I love you, bro, but, like, it's true.
Oh, no, that was a burn,
It's
mate. That was a
doing
total burn.
It's not doing Trossard any justice.
I mean, in fairness, that was the ultimate disrespect. But I think it came from a genuine place of, of love rather than like to be mean. But that was a burn and a half. Like,
I mean, how bad Trossard is at the moment, not necessarily Tom's trim.
Well,
Madness.
Yeah. If only he didn't have the Tom haircut, he'd be banging.
Bless up Jacob, by the way. Bless up, bro. Legend every single time, man.
Oh.
But
yeah, Dom, what have you got your lineup ready, mate?
Yeah, I've definitely spent this time planning and preparing my lineup. So, here goes because, I didn't use the time effectively. So you might as well have come to me first. So I'm going Neto in goal. I'm going specially for said party at right back. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Ben White at right back. I think he's been building up the fitness. He starts this one. At centre half, I am going Calafiori and Kiwior.
Yeah.
I'm then going MLS at left back. He's had some minutes out in the last few weeks. And everyone's going, "Where's Tierney?" Just you wait. Don't you worry. I've got a plan for him.
I've
got a plan.
No.
I've got a plan.
He's playing him left wing, ain't he?
I am playing him on the left wing. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm doing that. And then it's Jorginho and Zinchenko in midfield. I think that actually works quite nicely at 6 and 8. And then I am going Raheem right, Tierney left, Butler or Jay-Z up front. And I am going to play Ødegaard again just to give Waneri a rest. But I think the subs that you need to make, the 2 subs you definitely need to make in this game with that as your lineup, have to be Martinelli getting some more minutes. I don't want to risk him from the start. I don't want to overpush him. And that's why I don't start him. I don't want to really see him starting unless he's 100% fit to go until after the international break. And then I think at some point you do Waneri for Ødegaard in this game as well. But I think Ødegaard probably is the man that starts because when Waneri is 17 and is still a lad and he's still growing, not everyone is the freak that Bukayo Saka was, right? Or even the MLS is. I think he's slightly more lightweight and still, in terms of physically, I'm not sort of dissing him, but I think he's still got more growth in him than say Saka had at the same age, and I don't want to overstress that body, so that's why I probably play Ødegaard for 60-65 minutes and then make that change.
Yeah, I think
So
I think you are taking that risk though, starting Lewis Skelly after the last game against PSV, where he nearly got sent off and he probably should have been. So I think you are taking that risk in, starting Lewis Skelly.
time to see if he's learned his lesson, right? I mean, I spoke before the Manchester United game about Calafiori. Does he start because of the attacking, or do you leave him off? But there's also a question of what do you do about Miles Lewis-Skelly? Do you sort of teach him a bit of a lesson there, right? For want of a better word, I think we spoke about it on the chat, right? To teach him you can't do that sort of thing. But this is your opportunity to see if he's grown and has learned from it, right? And if he doesn't, well, you've got 4 left backs on the pitch in Calafiori, Zinchenko, MLS and Tierney. So you've got plenty of options if he gets an early booking to go, well, you clearly not learnt your lesson. Off you come, mate, So I think you've got an easy change there that you can make in that scenario.
Yeah.
And it probably Zinchenko goes in at left back and Moreno comes on into midfield in that scenario.
Yeah. So big up to my brother Marcus in the chat. My brother Inter fan. Obviously, he wants to talk about Lautaro. Yeah. So as we said at the start, man, like I think Dom said it perfectly. Like obviously, he's just rumors. He's not really looking into it because there's nothing been like proper intensive, like proper concrete rumors, has there? It's just coming from like football. It's like this football 365, like something like that. Football transfers are all reporting it. Just these reports that have been put out there. Just rumors going around, bro. To be honest with you.
I put no credence. I put about as much credence on it as I saw on Football London earlier today. Arsenal are going to have transfer listed 4 players and are going to get £55 million for them. Would you like to know the 4 players that they have transfer listed and will sell this summer for 55 million?
Let's hear it.
Zinchenko. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jorginho, who is out of contract and therefore we will get nothing for. Partey, who is out of contract and therefore we will get nothing for. And just to keep up with the theme, Kieran Tierney, who has already got a pre-contract agreement with Celtic and we will get nothing for. Great reporting that, brilliant.
50 mil for Zinchenko, yeah.
So unless we're getting 55 million for Zinchenko, which isn't going to happen. It's probably, with the length of his contract, you're looking at 20 mil because he's a type of player where unless you're going to play him definitely as a midfielder, there's a limited fit for him playing that kind of left back, right? So, that's about as much credence I give Martinez at the moment to Arsenal. I'll believe it when we start seeing concrete links from various relatively reputable journalists. I don't need Ornstein or Fabrizio or that level, but once you start seeing reliable beat writers across a few different sources coming to it, then I'll start to believe it.
He's been there so many years at Inter as well. He's been so long. I think he signed a new contract maybe last season, the season before. Marcus will be able to tell us because he's an expert at Inter, but he's been so loyal to Inter. Like I remember so many clubs looking at Martinez as well, and they're talking about 100 millions and all this, and it just never got done because he wanted to stay.
He's been really loyal. It's why we're talking about Isak wanting to stay in the summer at Newcastle, and Martinez sort of very similar there. And this is a question rather than a statement, and Marcus or yourself might be able to answer this. The only way I can really see him leaving based on that loyalty is if Inter have to sell because they need money, and I don't know if they're in that position, right? But even then, I think it's come out of the blue, this one, and I'll believe it when I see it. But I don't know if Inter are in that position where they have to sell.
Yeah, honestly, I don't. They're not as bad as like when you look at most European clubs out there. To be honest with you, they're in very good position financially. I think obviously they're still top of the league right now. To be fair, so he's going to win the title back to back by the looks of it this season.
Has the gap opened up now? Because last time I looked at it, which admittedly was a long time ago, it was like 5 points separating the top 6.
Oh, bro, honestly, no. It's literally between the top 3 now. Inter 61 points, Napoli 60 points, Atalanta I think 59 points. Literally, any of them could win it. If one of these 3 teams drop off and they lose a game, and the other one capitalizes, it can go either way, bro.
Yeah, even La Liga title race as well.
Yeah, La Liga's mad. It's between Barca, Atleti, and Real Madrid. And
and you look at the Premier League title race and you just sigh.
Yeah, I think the Premier League title race will return to normal next year. To be honest, I think this is a really odd Premier League season. To be blunt,
It's been
this,
really
is
weird,
the,
man.
this has been the oddest since Leicester City won it, right? You know,
Yeah, I've got to say that as well,
Is
man.
it the worst to you?
is it the
Like the worst Premier League season?
as an Arsenal fan, you know, it's the worst for a while, but
Not like
no,
from the neutrals.
no,
but-
yeah, I think so. In terms of the title, yeah, but the top four, massively exciting, right?
yeah, I mean,
you
I
got Forest,
would say,
Chelsea,
though,
Arsenal won today.
I would say the 2020-21 season was just rubbish. There was no real title race. There was no real relegation battle. There was only Leicester and Chelsea challenging for top four.
That must have been, yeah. Oh, challenge for top four, yeah.
This is what he said, Marcus. His contract ends in 4 years. So yeah, there we go. I mean, he's still got plenty of time if we need to extend again. I think Lautaro would want to move out. When I last read, he's happy staying in Italy. So there we go.
Another thing about that lockdown season as well. Remember
Like-
having to pay £14.95 as well to watch football matches.
Just
You
use
had to pay that, yeah, you had to pay that amount to watch bloody
Let's go.
Sheffield United against Fulham.
Oh my days.
I mean, just on that Martinez point there, you know, if with 4 years left in his deal, unless Inter have to sell, that transfer is not happening, and even if it is, it's going to be massively expensive.
oh yeah.
You know, I just
not-
don't think this is happening, right?
If not, go and get Jonathan David, innit?
I get Jonathan David and sell Trossard this summer. There's your Trossard replacement. Free transfer, bank 30 for Trossard. Happy days.
Yeah.
I've been big on Jonathan David for some time. He's my guy.
He is, bro. You've been telling us all before as well, man. Before we even mentioned his name. Dom Nu, mate. Yeah.
We all have players we
like.
like. I would have loved to have signed Coop Miners as well this summer, but just went.
Oh, yeah, he's a great player.
At Juventus.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
him.
Good player.
I'd have loved to have signed him as the 8. That's the 8 I would have got.
I mean, like after the way Colin Mawani has played for Juventus, like I'm kind of regretting all the things I've said about Colin Mawani this whole time because he's actually playing all right.
Well, I think
all it takes is the right club.
What about someone like Frankie Dion from Barcelona?
No,
I
don't- injury prone. I think he's past his best. You know.
Do you reckon?
I would have signed him. I would have. I like Frankie De Jong. You know, he sort of dreams sort of signing, but my concern would be his injuries.
Yeah, and he's not really a box midfielder as well.
I don't mind that so much. You know, the way Arsenal play, I don't think that's necessarily 100% required. But yeah, his injury I sort of had him in my sort of dream signing, partly because I was struggling to think of an 8 before I came out with Coop Miners, so I had him sort of before that. But the injuries were a concern. It's why it's, you know, without meaning to sort of get the popcorn out, it's why I didn't want Pedro Neto. Like, he has ironically stayed injury free this year, but not set the world alight. But you just don't sign an injury prone player if you know when you're not desperate. You only sign them when you're desperate.
Yeah, I mean, the box midfielder that I would love Arsenal to go and get, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. But I'd sign Morgan Rogers in the summer.
Oh no. No, not for me.
What do you mean no?
No, not for. I'll tell you why. I have the same concern about Lookman, right? Which is, I just wonder whether he is the system fit there for Villa. I think he's a really good, powerful runner. I think he fits really well at Villa. I don't necessarily. It's a bit like where I was talking about Marmoush earlier. You know, obviously, I don't think he would be a disaster by any stretch at Arsenal, but sometimes players just fit clubs and systems really well. Marmoush fits City perfectly, and I just think Morgan Rogers suits the way Villa play and not necessarily the way we play. That's not to disrespect Morgan Rogers. I think he's done really, really well this year. I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's quite the right fit. I also think Arsenal can probably do better than Morgan Rogers. If Morgan Rogers keeps this up for 2 or 3 years, then yeah, but it's been pretty much a season.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, you get these players in now, so you don't have to pay big money for them in like 3 years if they're still.
I get that. Like, I do understand that. I think that's important, right? It's a bit like your, Calafiori, signing, or why you'd sign Hatto, etc., etc. You're in Timber. If we left him at Ajax for another year or two, and he was under contract, you pay a lot more for him, right? But as I say, I think I'm concerned that he's having a bit of a career year and fit, which is why I don't go and buy him. But I sort of understand the link from a box to box, but it's not for me. I don't know what you think.
Would you take Rodgers, Josh?
I would. No, I would. Like, I get Dom's point, to be fair, but this guy looks incredible when I'm watching him for Villa, man. Like, even I remember when we played against them, was it Villa Park? This guy dominated us.
Yeah, he ran Partey and
he dominated.
ragged.
Yeah,
I really like Rodgers.
Yeah,
I agree. I think he's a good player.
Fielder, you can play him as a 10 and then play Ødegaard box to box, where he's been playing for Aston Villa. But I think in that box to box midfield role at Arsenal, I think we need another. Not to say he reminds me of him, but he does remind me of a bit of Wineri, what we currently have now.
Who Rodgers does?
Yeah, the fact he's got that fearless factor about him and he's not afraid to terrorise what's in front of him.
I agree with you. I think that's what we need. I just think Rodgers is a system guy. Do you know who I go and do that sort of provides that ability to dribble with the ball and make something happen out of nothing, that I think is definitely gettable this year and is Premier League experienced? I think he'd probably cost 40 to 50.
Who?
Eberezer Eze from Palace.
Eze, yeah. Palace.
I think he's a system fit. I think he's a creative spark, and I think he had something different, and I think he can fit in because I think his technical ability, passing the ball, is superior to Morgan Rodgers, and I think that's why he's a better system fit for us than Morgan Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, another one that I would take as well is Cherky at Lyon.
Oh no, he's an arse. He's a. Yeah, no, I'm not. I think he's technically a very good player, but he's
really.
By all accounts, he is an absolute disciplinary nightmare.
Is he?
By all, yeah.
But the thing is, like, look where Lyon are at the moment. Are they relegated currently?
Yeah, but he's been a problem. Like,
I think all he needs is a move.
Possibly, but I mean, he's been a problem before that, right?
Could you see us getting Cunha in the summer? Because
I'll take him.
Find him from Atleti.
Definitely take Cunha. If we're planning on playing him as our number 10 and regarding the box to box, I think Cunha would work out. He brings that Brazilian core again, as well. So, yeah, why not? I'd take Cunha.
But by the way, very quickly, anyone blaming the referee for the wall is mental, right? Absolutely mental. And I know AFC always isn't saying that, but any fan that thinks that was the problem,
I know.
Raya's positioning was the problem, right?
Yeah, and Raya as well. Like, what was he doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Raya's positioning was.
I mean, he thought he saw a rat towards the bloody, goal post or something. Man thought he was a postman. But I think with Cunha, right, I think this season he's got one of the best strikes of a football I've seen.
What do you, just quickly on this? What do you make of the Arteta interview when he stormed out?
Storming a teacup. My view. Look, I actually covered this earlier in 90 seconds. Right, I thought it was very clever journalism. Is the first thing I will say, right? Because Arteta was clearly irritated because the performance wasn't good enough. You could see him be irritated the entire interview. And this is where I always feel for any manager where they have to give that post-match interview, because football's an emotional game, and they're, when they've lost and they're really frustrated with the loss, they're angry. But I thought it was very clever journalism, right? Because he's asking questions towards the end when he's already irritated to wind him up more. He's ended the interview early, and he's gone one more question when he's already halfway out the door, and then asked him a question that he's answered 100 times before. However, I do not think it is a good look for Mikel Arteta. You just quickly answer that question, as he did in the post-match press conference when he asked about it. Just answer the question and then go. But I think my issue with this is it's a storm in a teacup. My issue is more around the reporting of it, right? As if he can't handle the pressure and he can't do it. It's like, really? That's not. I don't think that's what happened, right? I think it's just a storm in a teacup, and it's happened. Move on. It's nothing there. He was halfway out the door before the question was asked, and he's got to go and do 4 or 5 other interviews after that. He's got to do the radio. He's got to do all these other things. So he knows they're on a time limit. They're nearly at the end, and then that's your question. If your question is, oh, so and so went off holding their hand, that's really quite bad, right? You maybe answer that question. He's answered that one a load of times before, but it is not a good look. Just answer the question, because the second you walk off what the story is, and that's why it's clever journalism.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah,
for sure.
he knew exactly what he was doing. That journal.
Oh, really clever journalism.
It's not a storm in
I
a
mean,
teacup.
like they've done it before with the ball,
Arteta's rattled,
and now he's.
Yeah, it's a soundbite, right? So Arteta was asked with the ball, right? He was asked, "What's your opinion on the ball?" He answers the question, and it gets clipped up. He's blaming the ball. But the question was, what were your view on the ball? Because it's a different ball to the one in the Premier League. And it gets clipped up. So sometimes you miss the story. And this isn't just with Mikel Arteta. It just happens right now. Mikel Arteta is a story. Mikel Arteta, Arsenal have been disappointing. It's a big story. Arsenal are a big club. They attract attention. It's a big story, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it. So you leave out the question, and it's that. And it's not the full reporting. And, do I think Mikel Arteta is rattled? No, I don't think he's rattled, because his job's not on the line. He's going to keep his job. Like, it's not a debate. He is not going, unless he decides he's leaving at the end of the year. He is our manager next year unless he decides to quit. I think he was genuinely irritated by the performance, and I think he's genuinely irritated by answering the same question repeatedly.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
can't blame journalists for asking it, but I can also understand why, just as a human being, you get so irritated asking the same question over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, like, regardless about, whether you want him in, whether you want him out.
He's here.
He's here for at least the next 3 years. So he's not under any pressure whatsoever.
Well, he's definitely here for the next 12 months at least. But
yeah.
But, unless he decides to walk away. But he should have answered the question, because he's story.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even a one-word answer.
Yeah.
He could have just gone, yeah, okay.
Particularly as he answered in the press conference.
Big up Godfrey, bro, every single time.
Yeah, just give us something at least.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what? After that comment about the ball, I feel like most journos have actually clocked him, They are slowly starting to ask him questions that are going to properly irritate him. And I kind of feel for him in that way, but
he's irritated because he cares, right? He wants to win. He clearly cares, and therefore he's irritated. So therefore, when he's irritated, you can ask the questions that are going to irritate him, right? And this is true of lots of managers. They get irritated when things aren't going way much more easily. They're human beings, just like we are. We get irritated when we're not happy more easily than when we are happy, right? But he knows he's a story, and that's where he's got to look at it and go, do you know what? I should have done that. But equally, he's a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that for sure. Let's do some predictions for Wednesday, man. I'm going probably be a dead game, ain't it? 3-1 Arsenal for me. What about you guys?
I have no idea. We don't. It's difficult to tell when you don't know what the lineup's going to be, right?
Yeah,
and you don't know how seriously the opposition are going to take it. If I'm PSV and I'm in poor form, do I come here thinking Arsenal are going to rest some players, and therefore this is a chance for us to get some momentum and win a big away game? Or do I go, do you know what? We've got more important things.
I need to focus on the league to win.
Exactly. So you just don't know what they're doing or what Arsenal are doing. It makes it impossible. I mean, 3-1
for the league, aren't they?
I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, so you know what? They might just come into this game thinking, you know what? We're in a title race at the moment in our league, and we're 7-1 down, might as well just
They might rotate.
might as well just accept defeat already. So it's actually difficult. I mean, how do you even throw out a score prediction? How? How do you even? I mean, obviously, I don't know. I'd go a boring 1-0 Arsenal.
1-0 to the Arsenal. I mean,
I'm not predicting 0-0 again.
Yeah, that went so well for us last time.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it was a bit of a one-off, right? I mean, like we said, it shows when a side comes out in these space, Arsenal, even with a depleted front line, can still expose it. Their issues are low block. Do PSV learn from that and come low block? I mean, we just don't know, right? It's impossible.
Yeah, like this is why I said I think Real Madrid would be better suited for us than an Atletico Madrid, because if Atletico Madrid was going to come to the Emirates with a lead, then we all know what they're going to do.
Yeah. Dom Arteta earns 15 mil. What does that say the rest of the team by walking away? Arteta feeling the pressure, taking a toll on him. Dom, what do you mean Arteta wants to win?
I think he does want to win, right? But he can't, get over the line. I've never doubted the fact he can't get over the line, and he can't, Wait, hold on. Let me start again. Jesus Christ, I'm getting my words mixed up. I'm fucking tired. Allow me. I was supposed to say that I think Arteta does want to win. I'm not denying the fact he doesn't, but it's obviously him getting over the line. And I have seen his ambition. He does want to win major honours, but he's not the guy to take us over the line. So I'm not doubting his ability to, not to win. Of course, I've not doubted that he's obviously trying his best, and I think he's done a good job at Arsenal from getting us to getting us from C to B, but he hasn't got us from B to A. And I think obviously if we don't win anything this season, primarily the Champions League, then obviously heads have to roll, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to win. Like, those are two different comparisons, right? There's a difference between not being able to get over the line and not having the ambition to win, because he does have the ambition to win. It's just he doesn't have that guilt edge to get over the line, and that is my problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that you're right to some extent. I think you can genuinely ask questions about whether he can get Arsenal over the line because he hasn't done it right. I still believe
That's definitely not Luca.
But I think that Arsenal could and would have won the league this season with things going a little bit differently. I still believe that. That's not to say mistakes haven't been made. We talked about January, and I've talked about Arteta being too conservative at times this season. No question about that, right? They're the issues coming out this season. One is very much on Arteta, which is a conservative approach. The other, I put the blame mostly at Jason Ito's door, and that's where that header's essentially role, which is you're going back to your old job, which I think he's very well suited for as a number 2, and we're bringing in Berta. I think that anyone that thinks that Arsenal and Arteta don't want to win hasn't been watching, right? Look at the culture change that he has brought, right, to the club. Everything he says is fourth not good enough. We want to be this and we want to be that. Everything is much more positive. But it's unquestionably true that he hasn't got us over the line. And that's where you can ask a legitimate question. Can he get us over the line? My view is he can. But he's running out of road. And I think had this season not had some of the circumstances around it, I don't think he can complain if he goes now. But secondly, I'd probably hold a slightly different opinion to the one I hold. I just did not see some of the things happening this season that have happened, some of which, as I say, are there. But I think anyone that says he doesn't want to win and hasn't got a winning mentality has not been watching the transformation of his club under him at all. And I also don't think he's a specialist in failure, right? Arsenal have moved forward. The question mark, as you rightly say, and it is a very fair question, and it's a very fair question, is he a Mauricio Pochettino, and can he not get us over the line? Or can he? I think that is a fair and legitimate question, and one that he is not going to be able to answer until he either goes, at which point the answer is yes, or he wins something. And like I say, I think even if we have a season like we had this season, where we don't spend any money, which I don't think will happen. I think we will spend money, so I don't think that's going to be the case. And or we get significant injuries, and like 30 years of history tells you, you have to be relatively injury free to key players to win the league. To win the league, then I think you can't have a second season of that and keep the manager at that point. That's 6 years. And I don't really care at that point if you had 2 seasons of it. 1 season, it can happen. We saw it happen to Liverpool a couple of times under Klopp. We've seen it happen to City this year. And you've seen the drop-off when those things happen.
Yeah.
And Arteta has, in fairness, managed it better than his contemporaries this year in that situation. It doesn't mean he hasn't made mistakes. But anyone saying he hasn't got a winning mentality, I'm sorry. Is incorrect. But AFC always is right, by the way. It's the most important thing is to win trophies.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. But that doesn't mean you haven't got a winning mentality, because there isn't just one club very often that wins it, right? It's not a monopoly. The league has several teams that are all in that position that are going to be disappointed when they don't win the Premier League at the end of the season. Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City. 2 of them will miss out at the moment this season, and the 2 that miss out will be very disappointed. AFC always, if injuries to the level aren't an excuse, find me 1 team in the Premier League that's ever won the Premier League with this level of injuries, if it's not an excuse. Seriously, find it. There isn't one. It doesn't mean it's good enough. It doesn't mean I'm happy about it, but to completely write it off is untrue. It's not the only reason. I've talked about lots of other reasons, some of which are in control, some of which aren't. Yeah, but it is part of the reason.
One thing I will say about the injuries, right? And I've seen so many Liverpool fans tweeting out about, this was the table before Arsenal eventually got their injury crisis. It's just bollocks. I don't mind banter. I don't mind, bringing stats up. That's fine. But at least get them correct.
Yeah.
Because we did have injuries before we eventually, when we went down, when we went on that, on that, what do you call it, dip.
Yeah.
So I think with this whole narrative about the fact we haven't had injuries, I've never denied that we haven't been dealing with injuries. It's just that isn't necessarily an excuse to me, especially when we didn't have injuries last season and we still didn't win the league. We didn't even win anything last season, not even a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, despite the form we were in towards the end of last season.
I mean, in fairness, it shows how good City were. But you're right. Like, you can't solely say it's injuries. No one is saying that, but it is part of it. And you're absolutely right. And it's why you have to ask the question, right? Can he get us over the line? Now, City were phenomenal last season, no question. So were we, right? But his domestic cups, I'm not so worried in the early years of it. But last year, we played well against Liverpool last year and lost. But the West Ham performance was horrific. I don't think he threw it away. He wouldn't deliberately go and lose the game, but it was a horrific performance. But when you build up over time, it all leads to a legitimate question about him. 100%. Can he win trophies? The answer is we don't know.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think so, but I think it's a perfectly rational position to say, can he do it? Because he hasn't. Yeah. So therefore, the evidence suggests he can't. I just happen to think he can.
But I've never questioned his mentality for the club, and this is why I said earlier that there's a huge grey area between, not being able to get over the line and having the mentality to win. I'm a shit manager. I don't have coaching badges and that, but I have the mentality to win.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm going to get us over the line.
Yeah, I think there's a mentality.
Dom or Josh.
No, it was a mentality win that he had.
He's a quality manager.
Oh yeah, I'm football manager.
Yeah, football manager and under 9 girls, under 10 mix, right? But in all seriousness, there's also a question, right? I think every manager has the will to win, right, and the desire to win. No manager goes out there, or no player goes out there. Do you know what? I fancy losing today, unless they've taken a bribe to lose, right? But you also have to be able to transition that to the players. And again, you just look at you'd look at the change from Arsenal in terms of how they are acting in and around, and you can almost feel the hurt a little bit right now, and that's that's kind of a good thing in some ways, and that does come from the manager and the leadership, and everyone talks about it around the club in a very different way to how they talked about it pre that. And you talk to people that have been and gone from the club, and they will say how instrumental he is in that. So I think on that winning culture, he definitely has it. But has it been good enough this season? No, it hasn't. Like, as I say, and there's some factors that are in his control, some factors that aren't in his control. He has to take responsibility for the ones that are in his control, which is too conservative football, not attacking enough. And he has to take responsibility for those elements, right? But there are also some elements beyond his control, which happen from time to time in football. Like we said, Klopp 2 years ago couldn't have predicted what would happen to him, and they finished 5th. Pep Guardiola, similar issues to us this season, struggling to make top 4. It does happen. Do I think that will continue for City next year? No. Do I think it will continue for Arsenal next year? No. And, Liverpool have got fortunate this season, but in some ways they deserve it, because 2 years ago they were horrifically unlucky with injury, and I do genuinely believe these things are cyclical. Yeah, and they deserve their injury luck this season because they've been badly affected for the last 2.
Yeah, fair enough. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. Obviously, big up for coming on as always. Dom and Rory, you got any content you want to shout out?
I don't know.
Anything coming up?
Watch along maybe on Wednesday. And match reaction, perhaps player ratings as well after the game. So that's about it, really. And then obviously Chelsea at the weekend before we go into the international break. I might do a couple of England watch-alongs, actually, because got on your manager, innit? So, you know what? I'm actually looking forward to watching England for the first time in a while, just to see, like, how England play under Tuchel and whether it's the same shit or... I don't know. I think the squad gets announced Friday, actually. So maybe I could do a video on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be nice to see, obviously, when the likes of Waneri, Lewis Skelly, hopefully getting
hopefully
England.
Ben White, hopefully as well, get in.
Oh yeah, Ben White, but he's not really played enough, has he? So
yeah, true. Dom, you got anything coming up?
Yeah, I'll work it out as we go along. When Berta is announced, I'll probably do what's in his intro video. I think it covered sort of the appointment quite well. So that's kind of the only thing I thought about. I haven't actually thought about what's in his intro yet, but hey, that's what happens when I press record. But that will come up. I can't actually watch the game on Wednesday, so there probably won't be a reaction to it because I can't watch the game on Wednesday. So, but I'll put a preview out.
Football Manager.
No. I've got things to do on Wednesday, annoyingly, but it is what it is. But yeah, there'll be content out this week. Whether that Berta one will come out this week or next, it'll depend on when he's announced. But it'll probably be quiet during the international break. But interesting to see if Lewis Skelly or Ethan Waneri make the squad. I suspect Lewis Skelly more likely than Waneri.
Yeah.
I hope that Waneri doesn't make the squad. Actually, I think it would do him. I think it. I think he can sort of wait.
I don't think both will start anyway.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't see that. But yeah, guys, once again, appreciate you guys' time for coming on today as well. The chat as well. Thanks for all your comments. As always, all the likes, greatly appreciated. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, I've got a PSV fan joining me again tomorrow. So, I mean, I've got to feel so bad for him because, like, this guy's coming back on. They're saying one. You know what I mean? Like, you just like, you can imagine. I mean, we've been there. I think the Bayern Munich's a few years ago, going in 5-1 down in the second leg.
Yeah.
Just feels like crap, don't it? So, fair play to him. But yeah, you guys catch me there tomorrow, and then I'm actually at the game on Wednesday, guys. So I'm hopefully gonna do like a vlog.
Oh yeah, you've got a ticket now, haven't you? Yeah, enjoy the game.
I'm buzzing, mate, to be honest, because it's been so hard to get tickets with Arsenal this season. But because everyone's looking at it, I reckon, saying because it's midweek, everyone's got like work the next day, don't they? And it's
and there's nothing in the game, right?
there's nothing in the game, yeah. So they're like,
please
"Ah,
don't
let's
curse
get
us as
treated."
well.
Yeah. So yeah, thankfully I'm going. So yeah, but yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Take care, everyone, and as always.